Slipping on your beat, that shit there could be bad for you. Nigga catch you slipping, that shit could get mad up. Creatures on the creep lurking, call it the last supper. 100 on the Mac 9, they call that bitch Mag Muffin.
Slum 1200 GGI mob shit, and I'm back. Got my brother B 1100, you already know what it is. So we gonna be talking about that boy Telly Hankton, you know what I'm saying? Free that bitch Telly Hankton, man. Shout out to that bitch Third, you feel me? Bit wild Telly Hankton. I had a lot of encounters with Third, you hear me? Like, and it's like, it's crazy. Before I even really knew who he was, I used to always see that boy. Like, I'm talking about always, because one of his people stayed on Harmony and Liberty. Like 1 hour, you know, spots we used to be thugging at. You feel me? Where I say we used to play football and just all type of activities dealing with sports. And when we was younger, boxing and all that, we used to do right there. You feel me? We had a basketball goal right there on Harmony and Liberty. My mom actually stayed on Harmony and Liberty. My auntie and them stayed right in the houses where one of my aunts stayed right in the houses where Third people were staying at. You feel me? Long live my cousin Ken Fuller. Long live my cousin Darrell Fuller. You know what I'm saying? Long live Veronica. You feel me? Long live Charlie Brown. So I will always see that boy. So at this time, this in the 90s, you feel me? Like late 80s, early 90s, you feel me? So I'm still like active where I'm still really tied to the streets actively, like for the sports. You feel what I'm saying? Like I'm still a child. Like I ain't really contaminated or polluted at this time. You feel what I'm saying? I ain't actually seen too much debt at this specific time. You feel me? So when I would see him coming and going from his people's house, like we were always like, you know, we was just brought up like that. You feel me? Like people that came in our area, like we would always holler no matter if we knew you or not. You feel me? This was just something that we already knew. If you was coming around here frequently, you feel me, you had to be kin to somebody around here or you really knew somebody around here. So it was always a mutual respect thing when we seen him. You feel me? Like, and at this time, dude had I won't say it was a Dodge Charger. It was like a truck. I won't say it was I think it was. I'm gonna look for that. I'm gonna look that truck up so I can actually post the truck. But it probably was a 80-something Bronco. But if I ain't mistaken, it was a Dodge. It was like a Dodge Ram, like truck with a back on it. Like it looked like a Bronco truck, but I think it actually was a Dodge Charger truck, something like that. But anyway, it was red and white. It was red and it had a white stripe going through it. He used to always be in his truck and it was tinted up. So I used to always see him a lot. So one day we on Taladana and Liberty. And one of my partners, man, shout out to Marcus, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to his Uncle Troy, man, his brother Sean. His brother Sean used to be on, like he was a working dude, you feel me? But he used to stay with fast top of the line whips. You feel what I'm saying? So he had the 5.0 at this time. Same color as that boy Kane off Minister Society caught. That money green. The Yad 5.0. So that boy, you know, like Telly, he had them been on all this fast shit, just wilding out with the whips and shit. So I guess he hadn't seen Sean a few times. And when he came through this particular date, like we standing on the corner of Taladana and Liberty. My partner Marcus and them stayed right on the corner of Taladana and Liberty. So his brother Sean out there washing the 5.0. So that boy Third coming up the street, he turned off LaSalle. He coming down Taladana. He in the Trans Am. He in a black Firebird Trans Am, Pontiac. So bam, he come up the street. He get to the corner, man. He hit on the brakes like hard, like, and like stop. He must have seen Sean, you feel me? I don't think Sean was out there. I think his Uncle Troy was out there. This was Sean's brother. No, this was Sean's uncle, because this was my partner Marcus, mama brother. I think Troy was out there washing the car, if I ain't mistaken. Yeah, Troy was out there. Sean wasn't out there. Troy had on Sean's car. So Troy standing in front of the door. Third hit the brakes and stop. So when that boy stopped, he just looking at Troy, you feel me? Now Troy got the doors and shit bust open on the Mustang and shit, washing it, got it shining. So Third already knew if this ain't Sean, you in this car. So I'm basically like throwing this for you could tell Sean what I just did. You feel me, man? That boy, like down here in New Orleans, we have like, our intersections in the hood is like a cross. You feel me? Like every street is gonna be made like a cross. You feel me? Like, so when he stopped, he threw the car. So like he looking at Troy, he had hit the gas and made the car start burning out. Man, that boy really made that sucker do like 3-4 donuts in the middle of the cross. Just got that sucker fishtailing going all around. That boy did like 3-4 donuts, then that boy just took out on Toledano. I'm talking about, man, that boy had a big old black ring in the middle of the street, like a donut. Like a whole, oh man, that shit was in the street for like 7 years. I'm talking about dude really, man, I'm talking about, listen, dude really burnt out and then took out straight up the street like he never even did it. You would have thought he just passed up the street. Like, I'm talking about, man, that shit was so crazy. Like that, I guess that's where he really got the name Wild from. That's why that shit stuck to him. Like, dude really come through the second line one Sunday on Washington and LaSalle. They got the Indians, all that out there. He on a 4-wheeler, knifing that thing, like 2 blocks. He wound up getting hit by a car. Boom. That boy had staples all the way down here, down his whole chest, down his belly and everything. No cap. The next Sunday, that man was back on a 4-wheeler coming through. He had a white beat on, but he had this white beater. No, he had a white t-shirt on, but he had his t-shirt like this. Like he had his t-shirt like this. No beat on under it. You can still see the staples and all that in this shit. He still wheeling, whoa. In the same spot where he just got hit at last Sunday by a car wheeling on the 4-wheeler. So I guess that's why people started calling that boy Wild, because dude just used to be doing some like crazy shit in cars and on motorbikes and just anything dealing with automotive, like with a motor on it. Man, dude about to go crazy on that bit. Like, no cap. You feel what I'm saying? Like, and that's just the type of time that boy was on. You feel me? But all around, dude was a good dude. Like, you feel me? Like, I done been to clubs with dude, like I said. Like, I didn't really watch dude get mad because, like, we might be like 8 deep. Going in the club, going to House of Blues, going in the chat room. Man, dude will get mad if you pull money out your pocket trying to pay your own way to get in, or if you try to buy something from the bar. Like, dude will really get in his feelings. Probably won't speak to you for like a week or 2. Like, no cap. Like, that's just the type of individual dude was, dog. Like, and that's why I say, that's why I think the Wild title came from. Like, it wasn't so much as him doing like wild shit, murdering people and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? The shit that they saying he allegedly did, but I think that came from like just the type of shit he would do in vehicles and automotives, like, you know, just in cars and on motorbikes and like anything was dealing with 4 wheels or 2 wheels, he would just wild out on that junk. You feel me? So that's probably where the wild shit came from. You know, I know that boy by 3rd. You feel me? And like I say, I ain't come to knowing none of that till way late in the game. You feel me? And I had been seeing that man for years coming around there by his people house on Harmony and Liberty. You feel me?
And once described as one of New Orleans' most dangerous criminals, is now the center of a federal indictment. But the feds didn't stop with 36-year-old Telly Hankton.
And this 22-count indictment has charges that range from money laundering to murder. We went to the neighborhood where the Hanktons live to get reaction from the family to today's charges.
In the 1900 block of Josephine Street, just about everyone is family. The Hankton family, labeled by law enforcement as a violent drug trafficking organization, but Hankton family members and neighbors say that characterization is both unfair and untrue.
Don't listen to everything the media has to say, because the media don't know. If you was around the Hankton family, you will know them, and everything is not the truth.
Still, in an early morning sweep, federal agents rounded up Shirley Hankton and others related to or associated with the family.
Shirley Hankton is a wonderful woman, a wonderful grandmother.
In all, 13 people have been named in this federal indictment with charges ranging from conspiracy and money laundering to drug dealing.
And the man who testified in the Hankton case, John Matthews, was shot 17 times last October. Police believe it was an attempt to stop Matthews from testifying in the Hankton trial.
Police are investigating a brutal uptown murder that could be linked to the city's most dangerous criminal. We're talking about Telly Hankton. WDSU reporter Cindy Chewin is live where that murder happened on South Claiborne Avenue. And Cindy, what are the details that you have today?
Camille, 61-year-old Curtis Matthews was gunned down in front of the Jazz Daiquiri Lounge on Saturday night. He suffered multiple gunshot wounds and died at the scene. We have learned that he is the brother of John Matthews, who testified against Telly Hankton at his last trial. He testified that he was 95 to 97% sure that it was indeed Hankton who gunned down Darnell Stewart in front of the Jazz Daiquiri Lounge back in 2008. We've heard from District Attorney Leon Canizero, and he says that his department held an interagency meeting with other law enforcement agencies, including NOPD and FBI, just to name a couple. And he says that they are aggressively pursuing all leads and leaving no stone unturned in this investigation, but they still have not determined a motive and whether this is indeed linked to Telly Hankton. Camille?
You know, Sydney, this entire situation begs the question, should or even could the victim have been better protected?
Well, first of all, we should probably note that witness protection, as most people understand, and at the federal level, is when people get these new identities and they are relocated out of state. Well, what happens here at the state level is something very different. Witnesses are protected in the days leading up to the trial, and they're given resources so that they can either have moving costs or hotel rooms, something to make them feel safer during testimony. But we've got to remember that Curtis Matthews was neither a victim nor witness. He was a brother. And according to District Attorney Leon Canizero, he says he doesn't know of any single agency that is tasked with protecting an extended family member who lives out of state. Now, coming up at 5 and 6 o'clock tonight, we do hear from Rafael Goyeneche of the Metropolitan Crime Commission. He says this is one of the most atypical cases he's ever seen, but hear what he thinks law enforcement needs to do from this point forward.
There are serious questions tonight surrounding the district attorney's office's witness protection system. This after a man whose brother testified in a high-profile murder case was killed Saturday night. It's a story we first broke earlier today on WDSU.com. The victim's brother testified in the murder trial of Telly Hankton, also known as one of the most dangerous men in New Orleans. WDSU reporter Tiffany Bradley is on your side with what this killing could mean for the future of murder investigations.
High-profile murders. Federal investigators say police arrested the wrong guy. Michael Anderson was accused of shooting 5 teens in Central City back in 2006, but federal prosecutors say he was not the one responsible.
And instead, they're pointing the finger at Telly Hankton, a man who's been called the crime boss of New Orleans. WDSU News reporter Travis Mackler is here with what this means for Anderson, who was first charged for this.
Well, most likely nothing, because his convictions were vacated years ago. But the fact the feds now say Hankton is the trigger man could prove detrimental at his upcoming murder trial. On this quiet Central City street corner today, no one wanted to talk about the killing that happened almost a decade ago. It's always been rumored that reputed crime boss Telly Hankton could be involved, and now the feds believe that's true. In a federal filing before Hankton's June murder trial in federal court, the feds say they believe he pulled the trigger on an assault rifle, killing 5 teens. Prosecutors want to use that information against Hankton, even though he's never been charged with the murders. Legal analyst Robert Jenkins.
The people within the criminal justice community had always heard that he committed those crimes. There was rumors out there. It was even brought up in Michael Anderson's case that he had done this.
It was dubbed the Central City Massacre. 5 teens gunned down at the corner of Josephine and Danielle in June of 2006. The killings prompted then Governor Kathleen Blanco to send the National Guard back to the city. Within days, Michael Anderson was arrested and later convicted of the killings and sentenced to death. That conviction was later vacated due to problems with how prosecutors handled the case. Anderson, a drug gang leader, later pleaded guilty to another unrelated murder and drug charges and is currently serving a life sentence. Back in 2011, Anderson's lawyer said his client did not shoot anyone in Central City. Hankton's lawyers do not want the new allegations from prosecutors mentioned at his June trial. They cannot discuss the matter as there's a gag order in place in this case. Hankton was deemed New Orleans' most dangerous criminal by Mayor Mitch Landrieu and Police Chief Ronald Surpass back in 2011, running an alleged drug ring through Central City.
The NOPD is set to make a major announcement involving a high-profile murder case, a case that has the entire metro area buzzing for the past several days.
We have issued an arrest this evening for Walter Porter, an African-American male, 31 years old, 6'3", weighing 170 pounds. An arrest warrant has been issued for his arrest. Tonight, Less than an hour ago, our Special Weapons and Tactics team and homicide detectives served a search warrant on Porter's house.
Let's see, morning. You know what it is, baby. You hear me? It's all good in the hood. You hear me? Let us go.
We believe there may be evidence in this search, and we will know more in the coming hours. Once again, the drive-through doors of justice in New Orleans tell us the sad story. Porter has an extensive arrest and conviction history for violent crimes.
All right, Gina, thanks. And there was some drama outside criminal court yesterday when a family member of Telly Hankton posed as a juror and tried to sneak inside the courthouse. WDSU reporter Travers Mackel picks up our team coverage, but that's...
And it took the jury about 3.5 hours to deliberate, convicting Hankton 10-2. After 3 days of testimony, the jury handed down a guilty verdict in the murder trial of Telly Hankton for the May 2008 murder of Darnell Stewart.
I believe that he is not guilty.
How are you feeling right now?
Just that God is a God of life. He gives it and he only one could take it.
This woman identified herself only as a Hankton relative. Meanwhile, the prosecutors who secured a conviction against the man once called the most dangerous criminal in New Orleans had no comment. Instead, District Attorney Leon Canizero says his office is gratified by the verdict, but says there is still much more work to do.
Several years now, and there's still a lot of violence that's going on in this community. So his removal from that uptown area has really not stopped the violence. We're going to take him off the streets for the rest of his life, but there are other people out there.
Legal analyst Robert Jenkins says the turning point of the trial likely came during emotional eyewitness testimony in which one man tearfully recounted seeing Hankton shoot Stewart at least 10 times outside of the Jazz Daiquiri Lounge on South Claiborne.
But also, as you remember, the defense does not have to do anything. They don't have to put on a defense. But in this particular case, there was really not much to defense that they could put on because you had two eyewitnesses. One was 97%, the other one was saying he was right on, and the state took their time and put on a very good case.
Meanwhile, Canizero says this conviction is not the end, as his office still has 200 murder cases to try.
We're going to go out and we're going to continue to work. If you go out and commit a violent act, we're going to go after you, and we're going to go after you as aggressively as we can because this has got to stop.
Now, this verdict came down amid much drama outside of the courtroom. The DA's office says a family member of Telly Hankton tried to pose as a juror and sneak into the courtroom just yesterday. The same woman, according to the DA's office, also was taken out of the courtroom for allegedly making hand gestures to the jury. She faces at least one municipal misdemeanor charge at this time. On your side live at criminal court, Simney Chuen, WDSU News.
All right, Simney, and we heard the DA say that he will be off the streets for the rest of his life. When will Hankton actually be sentenced here?
Sentencing scheduled to take place on Thursday. He receives a mandatory life sentence, as is under Louisiana state law, for a second-degree murder charge. However, his defense attorney, Robert Glass, says he vows to appeal this verdict. But the legal analyst we spoke to tonight, Robert Jenkins, says he thinks that this verdict will stand on appeal.
All right, Simney Chuen live at criminal court. Thanks. Hankton is also set to stand trial in September for the June 2009 murder of Jesse Reed, which
in turn of events for a case that's not your run-of-the-mill murder trial. The DA's office says a relative of Telly Hankton tried to sneak into the courthouse posing as a juror and using a side entrance. All jurors have their own entrance into the courthouse at Tulane and Broad. It's this door you're looking at on the Broad Street side. The woman who allegedly tried to sneak in is identified as LaToya Emery. She was asked to leave criminal court earlier this week for making what some believe to be gestures to the jury during the Hankton trial. That woman's picture was given to security guards at the court's front entrance. So the DA's office says she tried to pose as a juror and gain access to the courthouse through the side door.
A lot of the stuff that happens here at Tulane and Broad, you can't make up. People will not believe that it happens, but it happens. They tell her that she can't go in the courtroom but because of some problems she's had. Then she comes in and tries to go through the jury side of it, and she's got some issues.
The woman, LaToya Emery, faces at least one municipal misdemeanor charge at this time.
The trial for the man connected to the city's most dangerous criminal is scheduled to start today. A judge continued Edward Allen's first-degree murder trial until today. Prosecutors say that Allen took part in the shooting death of Jesse Reed back in 2009. Allen is said to have committed the crime with Telly Hankton. Back in October, the district attorney's office argued to have Allen's trial pushed back until after Hankton's trial due to a concern for witness safety, but Judge Dennis Waldron denied that motion.
Another member of what police call a notorious crime family is behind bars. Sidney Hankton was arrested for illegal possession of stolen things. Sources tell WDSU Sidney is being kept away from his cousin Telly because investigators want to make sure he doesn't share any information regarding the trial or the jury that was just set with Telly. In the past, we've reported on witness intimidation in connection to the Telly Hankton case. Telly Hankton is on trial accused of a revenge killing in 2008.
A busy night for police officers on St. Andrews Street in Central City. Officers making an arrest one night after 76-year-old Henry Barber was found stabbed to death in this apartment complex. 72-year-old Herman Oakes lives next door.
I'm totally here about that. So close to everything.
Police say this is the woman who killed Barber, 36-year-old Benika Hankton, a first cousin of Telly Hankton, the person police once called the city's most dangerous man. Officers say Benika has a lengthy arrest record for crack cocaine.
Oftentimes when she is arrested, Mr. Barber will go and bond her out of jail.
That's because officers say the victim, Henry Barber, had recently collected a very large, possible six-figure cash settlement.
Mr. Barber had a substantial amount of money. I can't go into details, but we believe had a substantial amount of money inside the apartment.
The money was stolen and has not been recovered. Deputy Superintendent Marlon DeFillo says the victim and Hankton were romantically linked.
Mr. Barber had a lot of females who were coming and going in his apartment to the point we believe there was some intimacy type relationship.
Officers say Hankton called police on Thursday, telling them something seems strange at Barber's apartment and even met officers at the scene.
The district officers went to the home, and due to their alertness, they became suspicious because she was actually piercing through the window, directing them to where he could be, telling the officers that looks like blood on the floor.
Police officers say Hankton has confessed to the crime. They also say she's charged with first-degree murder because of the victim's age and also because a robbery took place along with the murder.
There's been a lot of drama around this trial. First of all, one of Hankton's relatives was charged with a misdemeanor for posing as a juror to get access to the courthouse. And then you've got local leaders weighing in and saying he is one of the most dangerous criminals in New Orleans history. Now, Hankton was convicted of second-degree murder in the death of Darnell Stewart. We talked to our WDSU analysts, and they say that the turning point for this case was when an eyewitness went before the jurors, took the stand, and described Hankton shooting Stewart at least 10 times. Now, again, a lot of local leaders weighing in after this conviction. Take a look at your screen because this is a quote from Chief Surpass. He says something along the lines of, quote, "New Orleans is safer because Hankton is off the street." The sentencing phase for Hankton for his trial is set for today at 2 p.m.
After 3 days of testimony, the jury handed down a guilty verdict in the murder trial of Telly Hankton for the May 2008 murder of Darnell Stewart.
I believe that he is not guilty.
How are you feeling right now?
Just that God is a God of life. He gives it and he only one could take it.
This woman identified herself only as a Hankton relative. Meanwhile, the prosecutors who secured a conviction against the man once called the most dangerous criminal in New Orleans had no comment. Instead, District Attorney Leon Canizero says his office is gratified by the verdict, but says there is still much more work to do.
Several years now, and there's still a lot of violence that's going on in this community. So his removal from that uptown area has really not stopped the violence. We're going to take him off the streets for the rest of his life, but there are other people out there.
Legal analyst Robert Jenkins says the turning point of the trial likely came during emotional eyewitness testimony in which one man tearfully recounted seeing Hankton shoot Stewart at least 10 times outside of the Jazz Daiquiri Lounge on South Claiborne.
But also, as you remember, the defense does not have to do anything. They don't have to put on a defense. But in this particular case, there was really not much to defense that they could put on because you had two eyewitnesses. One was 97%, the other one was saying he was right on, and the state took their time and put on a very good case.
Meanwhile, Canizero says this conviction is not the end, as his office still has 200 murder cases to try.
We're going to go out and we're going to continue to work. If you go out and commit a violent act, we're going to go after you, and we're going to go after you as aggressively as we can, because this has got to stop.
Now, this verdict came down amid much drama outside of the courtroom. The DA's office says a family member of Telly Hankton tried to pose as a juror and sneak into the courtroom just yesterday. The same woman, according to the DA's office, also was taken out of the courtroom for allegedly making hand gestures to the jury. She faces at least one municipal misdemeanor charge at this time. On your side live at criminal court, Simney Chuen, WDSU News.
All right, Simney, and we heard the DA say that he will be off the streets for the rest of his life. When will Hankton actually be sentenced here?
Sentencing scheduled to take place on Thursday. He receives a mandatory life sentence, as is under Louisiana state law, for a second-degree murder charge. However, his defense attorney, Robert Glass, says he vows to appeal this verdict.
Hankton is also set to stand trial in September for the June 2009 murder of Jesse Reed. A new twist in the murder case involving a man who at one time was called the city's most dangerous criminal. A second witness was taken into custody, accused of perjuring herself during the murder trial of Telly Hankton. WDSU reporter Gina Swanson joins us now live from the news center with more on this. Gina?
That's right, Scott, but we should say new information just into the newsroom. In the last few minutes, we have learned that both Danielle Hampton and Santa Johnson have been indicted on a 23-count indictment on charges of perjury. We know that Santa Johnson was the one who actually was arrested yesterday, and the second witness in connection with this case. But this just in, they have been indicted by a grand jury this afternoon on 23 counts of perjury, and they're both bond for both has been set at $300,000. So this case is constantly evolving.
Telly Hankton was charged with nearly a dozen racketeering charges, and he was found guilty on 9 of those charges. Those guilty verdicts were handed down on 3 charges of murder and 8 of racketeering, also 3 charges of causing death through the use of a firearm. He's also guilty on other conspiracy charges. Now, Hankton and 4 other defendants pleaded not guilty to charges that they were part of an operation that started trafficking drugs in the mid-90s, which led to violence and murder. Hankton is already serving a life sentence on a state murder charge for killing Darnell Stewart. He was charged in federal court with murder and aid of racketeering in Stewart's 2008 death and the murder of Darvin Bessie and Jesse Reed. Now, one of the cases in the trial centered around the killing of 5 teens in Central City back in 2006. Prosecutors claim that Hankton was the gunman who killed those teens. On trial with Hankton was also alleged gunman Walter Porter and 2 of Hankton's cousins, Andre Hankton and Kevin Jackson. Now, Hankton's mother, Shirley, also pleaded guilty to racketeering charges back in May.
Free that bitch Telly, man. You know what I'm saying? Y'all get in that comment section, hit that like button, make sure the notifications turned on, hit that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? Slum 1200 GGI mob shit.
Get rich, I'ma die trying to make it to the top. Shit, and anybody in the way, I'm putting them in a box. Yeah, it's gotta get it, I'ma stack it till it rock. Yeah, it's gotta get it, I'ma stack it till I drop. Shit, I with him still, it called the winter selling rocks. Now I pull up on a nigga with the 30, let it pop. Hit him with the bitch until the motherfucker stop. Then it's right back on the block, screaming death to all my ops.